got two questions. So the one I know that we still need to discuss. So the person wants some advice. They live in an estate. The garage is constantly flooding when it rains. The body corporate did step in to try build a trench, but now after last night's rain, the garage got flooded again. And then basically the viewer is asking for advice on how to deal with this because they can't live in a damp home. So I think I just need to kind of point that out. So we were speaking about a flooded garage. Now we're speaking about a damp home. And effectively, there are, substantial differences on how to deal with this. But yeah, so the reader just wants to kind of understand what recourse, what rights, yeah.
So again, this is one of those classic estate problems. These things are a dime a dozen, unfortunately, especially when it gets to the rainy season. These things pop up constantly. The first real question that is always the first thing you should address here is, well, where does this damp come from? Where does the water come from? Because between the owner and the estate, there are going to be different responsibilities depending on where this problem is coming from. Now, in this particular question, the writer said they had done some work to try and address the flooding issues, and now the estate, the body corporate, has done some work as well, and it's still not worked. So it seems to me that there's another assessment which has to go on in the circumstances, because clearly both sides have taken steps, nothing's happened. So there needs to be another assessment to say, okay, well, look, we've both done something, but it hasn't worked. Where's this problem? What can we do about it? And once you've answered that, you can start looking at, well, who's got the ultimate responsibility to do that? Absolutely. If it's coming in from common property, it's going to be a body corporate issue. If it's within your units or whatever the case is, then it's going to be your responsibility. But it's very difficult to answer unless you've got that initial, where does this problem sit?
So, and it's so funny because it's exactly that. Whenever we get these questions, it's always such a struggle to answer them. And it's not obviously the viewer's fault, because I mean, there's only so much detail you can put in a Facebook message. But even the construction of the building is crucial, because it comes back down to the basic question, like, where does the water come from? But if you're in a flat, as an example, and you happen to be in the ground unit, like it's approached very differently versus it's almost a freehold within a homeowners association. I think over here they did speak about a complex, so it might potentially be a standalone unit within a sectional title. But it all impacts, because if things come from poor drainage on the roof, but it's a flat and there's like 4 stories high, then we are speaking about certain common properties, as opposed to if it's freestanding, versus, like you mentioned, if it comes from common property, if it comes from the street and the drainage on, the accompanying streets aren't designed correctly. And the fact that the body, I mean, this is a total assumption, but the fact that the body corporate stepped in and tried to fix the problem does give me an indication that they feel responsible to a certain degree. And if we are speaking about garages, there is a conversation on driveways, road, I mean, how long is this driveway? It can't be where all the water's accumulating. One assumes that it probably comes from the road. So on my best assumption, I'd probably say that the fact that they stepped in does give an indication that there is a level of responsibility there, but if that isn't a conclusive answer.
And it really is, the devil's in the details, unfortunately, especially when it comes to stuff like this. It's really down to your individual property and what is happening with that individual property.
Absolutely. Just the interesting, to point something out, we're looking at current responsibility of owner versus body corporate, but we're not really touching on design flaws. So another question is, how long ago did you buy this property? Is this a recent problem? Has there been new developments or things outside that may have caused this to happen? Or could this be a design issue? Could this be a structural issue? I don't know if we could ever call it a structural issue, but did the developer do the design properly? Was the engineering done right? So that's also another question to look at. do you have recourse against the person that sold the property to you? Because there might be, NHBRC claim, not sure, but if there's damp issues and the seller didn't disclose or didn't build it properly, that could also be something to look at.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Then a